Hi, I'm Gordon Burkell from Filmmaker U. At Filmmaker U, we create courses for film professionals to deepen and diversify your existing skill set. You can learn more at filmmakeru.com or, of course, follow us on Instagram at filmmaker_u. Each week, we interview a film professional to discuss their work, and this week I'm joined by production designer Dan Weil, whose work includes The Fifth Element, Born Identity, and more recently, Franklin on Apple TV Plus. Welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you?
I guess first, how did you become involved with Franklin?
I don't know actually. I was involved because I've been called by my team actually.
Oh yeah.
I don't know directly how it did happen, but it's it's like I think they were looking for a French designer
Hmm.
and have some sort of international or American-like career. So I think he heard about me, and also there is a French producer who I think did some introduction. I don't know if he met with me with my agent or with a French
Hmm.
producer, but they were looking definitely for a French person because it was just easier.
Hmm.
I got into sound designing at a point when things were just developing. I was really fascinated by the idea that dialogue, effects, and music were all components of the soundtrack to a film, which had never occurred to me before. What gets me excited is coming up with sound ideas that do match picture, but also is not just the equivalent of what you're seeing on screen. I'm Eugene Garrity, and this is my course on sound design.
Now, when you got the scripts, how did you sort of take what was in the script and sort of build out on that? Because there's certain key places like Versailles and what have you that are gonna have their look, but what did you sort of extrapolate or sort of build on from there?
Uh, it's always more or less the same approach. Whatever is a fiction, whatever is a feature film, whatever is a TV series, mainly what you do as a designer to begin by is to read the script and to break it down, to know
Mhm.
what sort of set, what sort of set you will need. Just I'm talking theoretically. I mean, like whatever is real or not, you just do this, and you understand that you would need the building for, I don't know, Helvétius, for the Briand, for whoever, for Chaumont,
Mhm.
whoever, things like this. That's so you know more or less what you're looking for. Then you have a discussion with the director, and in this case, the will of team was to be as much as possible on location,
Mhm.
because I've done already a couple of movies about the 18th century.
Yeah.
And also because it's like all over the world. I mean, in London will be the same, in New York City or wherever, Los Angeles will be the same. At some point when you are looking for something with known, as it's not like an apartment, you could have thousands of apartments, but when you have
Mhm.
castle and building, and like if you look for landlord building, there are not so many of them. So usually I know, and location manager or location scout, they know more or less what sort of 18th century still exists around Paris.
Mhm.
And I had just changed to have done before a couple of other movies about the 18th century, means that I have a notion, even if I don't know all of them, or I don't remember all of them, I know more or less what is possible, what you can find, what is not. The other issue is also when you work in heritage location, you have a lot of issues. You can't do fire, you can't do smoke, you can't do this, you can't touch that. It's complicated for production. So that's the point where you begin to think about what could be done on location, what should be better built. Also on a show, there is moment where something is so used. What I mean so used, I mean you're going to shoot like 1 to maybe 3 weeks over there, that you just calculate, does it make sense not to look for a location? Won't be perfect because you won't have any any floating walls or stuff like this. You can't make anything convenient, and that's the moment you begin to think about designing and going for on stage. So that's it's some sort of organic process between the DOP, the director, the designer, and the production. It's not like something like you are just like imagining. but it seems quite natural that the place where Franklin spent most of his time, and we end up shooting like maybe 4 or 5 weeks on this sort of place. It didn't make any sense to do it on location because location will oblige a lot of things. But for the rest, the will of a team was to be as possible in location. It was not a model issue. It was a more crispy, realistic sort of position. It was not because we could afford to build more. It was because he wanted to start to be real and to be. And actually, when you watch the show, you never, even myself, sometimes I don't remember what was in location, what is, I'm quite happy with this because the idea of a stage is that you don't see it, that you don't know it's a stage, except when it's burning or something like this, you know that it was built. But to be as integrated or as melting, so you don't really know what is what and where we are.
Well, it's interesting that you would say that because I assume that you did shoot on locations, given the amount of detail in the architecture and things having to recreate some of that would have been.
Yeah, let's put it that way. You remember the set? Just to show you, to explain what is what. Versailles was shot in Versailles.
Yeah.
Vergennes office in Versailles was a stage.
Okay.
So, but we did this sort of work where we had a lot of craftsmen, we had a lot of quality to make it as big, as important. We copied, like we built the windows from Versailles, as big, as important, as tall that Versailles is. So it's a challenge to be. The other thing also that here it's the same thing in America, but I mean, in France, because people are more used to this sort of period, they know exactly not to do it, but we have the skill for doing it or to copy it. As you imagine building like a Western village in America, it's natural.
Yeah.
You will find quite easily the skill and the woodworkers who are able to do it right, not fast, but quite fast.
Yeah. Now, in a lot of, because it's set is a period piece, what was your work with the visual effects team like for doing set extensions and stuff? Like, did you guys work together or did they just finish it off without you?
No, I'm always quite involved with visual effects. For me, visual effects is like another tools like you have. When I say tools, I'm talking we have wood and painter, and plastic and plaster, whatever. And visual effects is one more tool. Doesn't mean that I'm doing it, but it's something I often do, me or people I work with, illustration and concept for the visual effects people. So they know what we do for them, and we discuss all the time. I mean, like when we do some work in the street on location, usually they ask me to do the first 4 meters, 16 feet high, and the rest they will paint it and match it with reality. So usually it's always a work in progress, and if it was not too complicated, and it was mainly for the streets that we have a lot of visual effects. For the interiors, we built what was needed, and but because we were a lot on location, it was not so much visual effects. But I took it more like an extra tool, more than like something complicated. It's actually.
No, I would love to know just when you were like working on this, is there a particular scene where that was really hard to sort of bring together or pull together and make look a particular way, but you're really proud of the outcome?
It's it's difficult for me to tell, but a show is a show. So I took it more like a global image. I'm happy when it goes smooth and some sort of different from the beginning to the end. So I've no like something that I'm more proud of the rest. It's more like the sometimes I could be proud of the color of the cushion working well with the costume and the light. And sometimes I could be proud because we built something big. But it's also a matter of I won't say experience, but years. When you have built all your life, the issue is not to build more and big. And sometimes a little detail, a little I don't know, a little something like we did a forge. That was not very complicated, but I was proud. And it's not like a big. I don't know if you remember the forge from the king. Or we built a lot of props. We did a lot of, and sometimes it's just a little stuff, and it's very pleasant to do. So it's more it's a rule. It's not I don't have something special to. I like not to be noticed.
Yeah. It's speaking of not being noticed, when you're rebuilding some of these things, what were some of the techniques you used to make it look older and more authentic?
But we use like the traditional movie workers with like painters, ager, but we have also now we do a lot of digital work. For example, like I come back to this example of the green office. I don't know if you remember. So all the painting was done digitally.
Oh,
So
wow.
when I said digitally, we took some real image from museum.
Yeah.
But it was done mainly by graphic artists more than by painters, because we print them, and after this we put them on the wall, and after some painter will make it look a little more real. So I mixed up a lot of techniques. I like, for example, like if you do some like woodwork, you have the woodwork done by hand, but you have also the woodwork by CNC. By computers, I mixed up. For example, like some of the streets you on the windows of the stores. It's not real stained glass work. It's just printed and stick on the real windows, and you don't see it. So I usually we have. I mean, not me only, but it's quite normal now in our business to mix up a lot of techniques. Not when I said old-fashioned, I don't say it's old. I'm saying like doing by hand, but also doing by computer and play with a lot of printing. For example, like the cobblestone on the street are actually molded in silicone.
Oh, wow.
Not real. But so it's a mix-up of real stuff, but as long as visually it looks good to everybody, that's enough. So it's a mixed up. So it's actually very modern technique, because you do a little bit of a sculpture of I would say 8 by 4 feet piece of sculpture on the floor. Then you mold it. Then you do some cast in silicone, because you can drive on it. You can have horses on it. That doesn't break, and you can carry them all the time. And that's a mix-up of techniques.
Probably one of the smartest things I've ever done for my career. It gave me all the tools that I needed to be able to jump into a new career.
Getting myself into a mindset, thinking like an editor, being around people that I can talk to on that level was really invaluable to me.
A lot of the things that I learned from that class, I still think about.
I loved the classroom. I loved the computer stations. We built a sense of community.
And it also instills a lot of confidence in you to take that and go out into the world.
After I took the class, I felt very prepared to take the next step.
I owe Manhattan Workshop the career that I have right now. Things have been going great, and I really have the Manhattan Workshop to thank for that.
I would love to know, so because you sort of talked about, the digital technique and mixing them all up, but I'm wondering, like, when we worked in film, it was more forgiving, that you could sort of use certain techniques that could trick the eye or make people feel that it looks a particular way. When we switched to digital, did you find you had to change things up a bit, or how did that affect your work?
I don't think it have changed at all. What could change is what did change is but it's a long time ago now because the digital is the last 10 years. It's
Yeah.
not from what did change at the beginning was the fact that, and also because I did a lot of movie was anamorphic and scope. And scope, you have not a depth of field. So sometimes a backing could be just like vaguely done.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as when you go when even at the time when we were spheric and now digital, it's a lot more crispy.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to make sure that things are properly done. When it was the depth of field was in anamorphic was much easier for us. So, but I mean, if I look at your image, I'm looking at you, I see your books, or as you see my books behind me. A few years in a digital, all this will be blurred. So it could be you can't read the name of the book. Me, I can read the name of not all of them, but some of your name of your books. So you have to be real books. It can be just like a piece of paper with something writing on it. It doesn't work. But what changed actually is not anymore the lenses that it was before. It's more about the fact it's a format. I will say 20 years ago, and when we were doing before the digital time, it was really about lenses. Now it's a lot more about the format. What is do you see me like this, or do you see me like this? Whatever, and because you see all of it and everything is crispy. So sometimes like a props or some item could be less, I won't say less good, but less well done.
Okay.
And that's over.
I have one last question for you. What would you say is your favorite guilty pleasure film or TV show to watch?
Recently I was very impressed by, I read the name because I don't remember the name. It was a Three Bodies Problem.
Yeah.
I thought it was one of the most interesting visual effects that I've seen for a long time.
Oh, interesting.
It was another vocabulary of visual effects. It was quite magic. It was not like that we have seen a lot the last few years. I won't name anybody, but I mean, at some point you are always bigger tools, more people, and more fighter, and everything going up and be bigger. This one was more delicate. So I did enjoy this show. What else I've seen? I've seen another show with a Canadian criminal story, like a Quebecois. Was quite. But I'm quite eclectic. I like Mayor of Easton as I like something more dramatic.
Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you today.
Thank you very much for you.
And that's our show for this week, everyone. Make sure to check us out at filmmakeru.com or, of course, on Instagram at filmmaker_you. I'm Gordon Burkell. Thanks for watching.